Hey, I'm Dan Bachman again, and we are here for a very long overdue update here. So I realize I have not posted any videos, so apologies for that. And there's a reason. It's been kind of some uncertainty, some test results that didn't come back the way I like. So essentially, here's the latest. I had my cancer blood work done a couple weeks ago, came back. That was Signatera and CEA. There are two markers we use to track that, like circulating tumor molecules in the blood. And the last time I had it done was about 4 months ago. And this time I had it done and they jumped 10x. So they were 10 times higher than they were before. So obviously not what I wanted to hear. So my oncologist said, okay, let's run some CT scans. So, and just see, has it spread, where is it growing, etc. Confirm that those test results are accurate. So I had 2 days ago, had chest, abdomen, pelvis, CT scan again with contrast, which is the usual thing. And just as kind of a clarification, earlier this year, maybe February, I think is when might have even been November, February, somewhere 6 to 8 months ago. I'd gone through all the treatment, all the surgeries, scanned, and then a liver spot came back. The 3 spots in my lungs grew a little bit. One spot in my right lung, which I'd forgotten about, is small. It's 5 millimeters. So those are what we're tracking, and they had grown last time we checked. The liver one had doubled to about 1 inch. The 3 left lung were smaller, 5, 8 millimeters, something like that. This one was 5 millimeters. So since the last set of CT scans I got, the liver one has stayed the same. So it's been stable, which is good. The 3 in my left lung grew a couple millimeters each. I think one of them's 1 inch. I think that's about the biggest one we have, 2.5 centimeters. And the one on my right lobe of my lung grew 1 millimeter from 5 to 6. Now the new thing that, just to mix things up and make it more interesting, right? There's a spot on my pancreas now. So, and it's at the head of the pancreas. And I don't know the internal anatomy that well, but my oncologist told me yesterday, just met with her yesterday, Dr. Adamio. She said that is where, I think it's a biliary duct or something, some tubule of some kind attaches. I believe it carries bile or something. I'm horrible with that internal anatomy. But she said because of the location, if that tumor grows, it can pinch off that tube and then lead to liver and digestion and bowel issues, or liver issues, I believe, and maybe gallbladder. That can get pretty serious pretty fast. So she said, if you turn yellow, that's an emergency. Come in right away. And she said we have the option, perhaps, depending on what it looks like at the time, if that happens. And by the way, turning yellow is I'm going to call it jaundice, which is a sign of liver disease or liver failure, liver injury. So they can put she said they may be able to put a little stent in there, which is just a little section of tube that they put into that closed off opening to open it up and hold it open. So they do the same thing in various places. They do it in the heart. My dad has 3 stents in his heart. He's had them for 15, 20 years. Run like a champ at 85 years old. So that's a possible way to buy us some time, basically. But she said that is the biggest risk right now that I'm facing as far as emergent things that need to be acted on right away and could end our story much faster. And she said, I have three options for you. She said, you can either, there's a trial, an experimental trial. It's a phase 1 trial or early trial, whatever it is, for immunotherapy, which is targeted non-toxic medication that, as my understanding is, it's calibrated to target only my tumor DNA. So we've done DNA analysis on my tumors, or genetic or whatever it is, and found that, oh, it has this composition, and immunotherapy or targeted therapy my understanding is you can target the specific tumor cell. So unlike regular chemo, where you just get a bunch of poison put in you and you hope it kills the tumor before it kills you because it affects everything. Unlike that, it's more targeted, so it's less toxic, fewer side effects, is my understanding. That's option one. Option two is go back to the chemo that we used 2 years ago. And Folfox and I forget the other. She said, would not do oxaliplatin, if I'm saying that correctly, because that's what gave me the horrible paresthesias in my hands. We had to stop it last time. But there were 2 chemo meds she said we could try. She said, you may have developed, basically tumor cells get accustomed to the chemo and become chemo resistant. Some of them do, not all of them. But that's why, like, if it kills off chemo, let's say it kills off 90% of the tumor, but the 10% that are left are like super tumor cells that are resistant to chemo, and so those are the ones that can grow and become bad again. But she said if enough time goes by, that may allow the old chemo we did to be more effective. And so that's option two. So one is a trial. It's experimental. She's referring me to the doc who oversees that program. Experimental trial, old chemo. Third, do nothing. So she said this would just be palliative care. Palliative means helping you feel better. It doesn't mean fixing anything. So for example, Tylenol is palliative care for aches and pains. If you've got a headache or if you've got, a joint ache, if you take Tylenol, it temporarily gives you some comfort so you can sleep or you can work or whatever the thing is you need to do. It's not fixing the problem. It's not speeding recovery or anything, but it's a little bridge across a rough patch that can allow you to be comfortable during that situation while hopefully you're healing. So Tylenol or ibuprofen, those are examples of palliative care that we use. Heat and ice or other examples. They don't fix anything, but they can make you feel better. So experimental trial, old chemo, or do nothing. And so I asked her, what is my life expectancy? Because we haven't talked about that in a while. And she paused and she said, this is the hard part of her job, is what she said. She said 2 to 6 months. And the 2 months would be if we have that, if that pancreatic spot gets bigger, pinches off things. Even if I get a stent, it might be 2 months. That would be a fast-acting thing. The 6 months would be if I did the experimental trial and it worked. So I said, whoa, so this experimental thing that's targeted to my tumor, if it does its job 100%, it may get me like 2 extra months to live? And she said, yep. So, wow, this is obviously a whole lot to hear. And it's, well, man, where do you start when you're thinking, when you hear this and you're thinking about it? I'm still obviously processing this. I just got this news yesterday. It just seems to just disagree completely with my reality. My reality is I've been feeling better. I've been functioning better. I mean, everything is improving. I had some knee issues that are getting better. I had arthritis in my big toe. It was bothering me, almost making me limp. It's getting better. I had a cough that really bothered me. Not the cough, it was just a tickly cough right here for about a month or so. And I was like, oh, great. Are these the lung tumors coming to get me? Is that what's happening now? Is that why I'm coughing? That went away too. It was a dry tickle. That went away. So all these things are getting better. I'm feeling more alert. My diet is more, my GI system is more adaptable to diet. I'm eating really good. I'm exercising regularly. Feeling stronger. Feeling like I'm starting to get my life back, and have been for months now, probably a good 3-4 months, something like that. I feel like I'm trending better, undoubtedly. And then at the same time, So there's that progress that feels so good, and my lived everyday life experience that says, yes, we're getting better. And then at the same time, oh, things are actually getting way worse inside you, and your future is shorter than we had thought, at least your estimated future. And I understand, I'm not resigning myself to what any test says. I'm not just rolling over and going, oh, well, if they saw that, then I guess I'm done, and I better just start checking out and wrapping up loose ends. I'm not being defeatist and depressed and kind of thinking about, well, I'm thinking about it all the time for probably, a couple of days here. But I feel energized. I feel vital. I feel like a really alive person. I feel the most alive that I've ever felt. And so those two ideas they don't fit together very well. And yet it's something I have to, acknowledge and deal with, figure out in my mind a way to think about all this. And then, of course, it raises all these other issues, like I have to think about how much longer can I work? How do I want to, if I did have 2 months, or if I had 6 months, how would I want to spend those? It makes me really glad that I went up and saw my brother and his family in late July. It was, I've only been able to work mornings just because of my surgical issues. It's a long story, but all the eating triggers this process that then can interrupt my work. So if I time it and eat just the right things in the morning, it lets me work uninterrupted in the mornings. But as soon as I eat lunch, which is my only solid food meal of the day, then it starts this process that would get in the way of me working afternoons. So I'm only able to work part-time, half-time. And then also, I burned through all my savings last year, which, I feel so fortunate to have had savings to burn through, because I couldn't work. I was off work 4 months last year. And in between surgeries, I was limited in the amount of time I could work because of symptoms, So, but I'm all out of I drained the thing dry, no more savings, and I'm only able to work part-time now. So finances are a little tricky. This is not a feel sorry for me at all. This is just the kinds of things you start to think about. Well, I need to work to, pay bills and eat and put food on the table and all those things. But how much, obviously you can tell I'm just kind of working through these things right now in my head. This is my chance. It may be my chance. I'm not giving up at all. So and I'll tell you about it. I switched my diet. I'm going hardcore keto. I had mentioned doing that before. I fell off of that, and I was doing, because it felt pretty good. I was eating plenty of carbs, but good carbs, fruits and veggies and stuff, and some cheat days and stuff as well. But have some muffins or something. But I've changed to strict keto. The idea being, there's a theory that's been around forever, since the 30s, that if you starve a tumor, you can starve a tumor because they eat mostly sugar. Sometimes at a rate of 50 times the amount of sugar compared to other cells in your body. In fact, that's how a PET scan works. A PET scan is how they find tumors in your body, one of the ways, and they have you take no sugar for a while, and then they give you some sugar to drink, and then they scan you, and it shows hot spots where the sugar is being sucked up. Like where the more sugar is being eaten, the bigger a glow it is on you. So they can find tumors that way because they consume it at such a faster rate than other cells. So anyway, theory is you can starve a tumor by cutting out most carbs. So I'm trying to keep it the last 2 days. I started 2 days ago. 50 grams or less of carbs. Sometimes they eat 20 grams of carbs a day. That is tricky, man. Woo! So it's almost a carnivore diet. Carnivore would just be meat products only. fish and chicken, we'll say like beef or red meat, chicken, fish, seafood, that kind of stuff. Which is a change for me because I'm a lifelong vegetarian. I've been adding some meat since I got anemic earlier this year. I eat salmon almost every day, and my iron levels are good. So that hasn't happened, and I was able to handle, not too weirded out by eating it. It doesn't give me a stomach ache or anything like that. It's just, it's not my preferred food. So I made a big frittata last night, a big casserole with some veggies, like I did spinach and mushrooms because they're very low glycemic index. And they have some fiber too, which that's another thing with carnivore diet, is you don't get any fiber, so you can get constipated, which I do not need. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling here. This is kind of stream of consciousness stuff. You're just, basically I just want to kind of share with you where I'm in my situation and kind of the thoughts that it raises. It's pretty incredible. This is, it almost feels like a blessing to have known this was a possibility 2 years ago. Because what are the options? I guess before all this, I just assumed I would probably die suddenly and unexpectedly. I wonder how I assume that's how most of us feel. We realize we're going to die sometime, and we just think, oh, maybe I'll get hit by a car or have a heart attack or something, out of the blue, which seemed comforting at the time. It's like, oh, that way I'm not dreading it if I knew it was coming. But since I knew this was a possibility 2 years ago when I was diagnosed, early 21, it gives you a chance to kind of roll all these things over in your mind and think through. It takes you down a bunch of little trails. I mean, everything from, wait, I need to cancel this subscription. What about my Netflix? What's going to happen then? What about my phone? Is it just going to be locked if no one knows my password? Or what do I do for canceling leases? What happens with all this stuff? And when do I have to stop working? And should I work as much as I can? And so you're just getting kind of the big mismatch of stuff, some of the things that run through, I would think, anyone's mind in this situation. And it feels so strange. Walking, I just went on my hike this morning. It's just gorgeous out there. It's like 84 degrees. Sunny, there's a light breeze blowing. The trees are beautiful. Hear the birds and every little thing just seems so intensely beautiful. And that is, I'm going to try not to get emotional here. That's the cool thing about cancer. And that's a book I want to write. That's the title for a book I want to write. I don't know if I'm going to have the time now, but it just peels off all the superficial stuff that we accumulate layers of it over our life. All the petty stuff, all the politics, all the squabbling, all the gossip, all the caring about how others think about us, and trying to dress in a good way and have the best car and be successful and have prestige. All these things that we end up caring about. Speaking for myself, we just accumulate these distractions, and it just peels them all away, and you're left with caring about people pretty much. And which I think I've always wanted to be more empathetic and more tender and more genuine and authentic. I've always tried to be, but it up until my life, so up until this point, like up until I'm supposed to be 55 on November 18. So my birthday's coming up. So that's my near-term goal, is to make it to my birthday feeling okay. And then we'll set more goals after that, obviously. But up until about 50 years old, I just had this unfinished, unsatisfied, unfulfilled feeling that was just always there in the background. It's no matter what kind of successes or great things that happened to me, or whatever I was, no matter how much joy I had, there was always just this theme going on underneath that I was just not, you could call it the meaning of life. Why am I here? I just didn't feel like I really knew. I didn't feel like I was fully expressed as a person, as a Dan Bachman. I didn't feel like I was a fully formed person yet. And of course, the irony is that once I get this diagnosis, it radically realigns your priorities. It changes the way you think. It forces you to look in areas that you just didn't want to think about. You know, the difficult thoughts, the things you're ashamed of, the things you regret. It makes you look at all these things. It also makes you feel everything more intensely. I mean, I'm looking out my office window. I see the trees blowing in the breeze, the grass fluttering. I mean, there are birds. I see deer walk by here sometimes. And outside it's so pleasant. And I mean, even little things, you know, the mundane things, pumping gas, going to the grocery store, or taking a shower, or, you know, petting my cat curled up on the couch, or, you know, all those little things, they just take up so much more meaning in a way that makes life rich. It just makes it so, that unfinished feeling inside me has been gone. And even more completely gone, the kind of worse my trajectory has gone health-wise. And the irony of all this, if it's irony, is that I finally feel like I am in a place I'm in the best place I've ever been in my life. And now I don't have a chance to use it, you know? I'm not even going to say it's unfair. I mean, obviously, we all die. We don't get a say in when or how. It just feels like a waste. I feel like I have a lot to give in various ways, you know, friends, family, strangers, professionally with my musculoskeletal treatment approach, all these things. And then it's like, oh, nope, you are getting pulled from the game. So in a video game, it's like you just conquered the big boss, the toughest level in the game, and then it's game over. Instead of now I get to enjoy my accomplishments or give back the things that I have received. I don't get a chance to do that. And I would say my hunger and thirst for life is the highest it's ever been. Every second feels intense, not in an anxious way. It just feels like, I feel like it's so weird. It feels like I'll have memories whenever I do die. Hopefully it's a long time from now. But whenever I do die, it feels like I want to remember these moments when I'm dead. And of course, well, I mean, depending on your beliefs, you know, that may or may not be possible. But it feels like I just want to remember this moment I'm in. I wish I could have gotten here sooner, but I'm really glad I'm here. Man, I don't know what this update has turned, this little talk has turned into, but I guess I just want to, impress on any of you watching that there's a lot more to life. You don't have to wait till you get to this spot. Just be intentional about what you want and what you want to value. It's so much richer, it's so much more rewarding. And again, we don't know, again, depending on your beliefs, we don't have proof of an afterlife. I'm not counting on one. If there is one and it's good, awesome. I'm stoked. And my feelings on that may change, they may change. They say there are no atheists in foxholes, right? Because when everything's on the line, that's when you figure out how you really feel or what you're really willing to do. But I just hope that if there's anything, if there's anything that you can take away from my little story here, it's look for the real stuff in yourself and around you. And it's hard. It's especially hard right now. I would say the last 5 years, it's been crazy out in the world in lots of different ways. I mean, economically and socially, politically, all those things are just insane. And you feel like, I can see why it would feel like the world's just falling apart. But whether I live to see it or not, out of crisis and chaos come better things. And we've seen this before. I mean, just in the U.S., we've seen back in the 60s, we had assassinations. We had, the Vietnam War. We had Watergate. We had scandals. We had, Kent State shootings. We had We had, all kinds of race riots and burning down cities. We've had all that back in the 60s. Now, what came out of that? Well, we had the Summer of Love. We had civil rights. We had women's rights. We had lots of good things. We had the love era, right, that came afterwards. So I understand that we're all very stressed and anxious, and we feel like the world's falling apart. But that is a necessary thing that has to happen every so often during history. When we forget those lessons as a group of people, generations go by, we forget the lessons we learned, our grandparents learned, because we didn't experience it. So we repeat the same problems. So there are cycles. There's a great book called The Fourth Turning by Neil Howe that goes over this. It's fascinating. But anyway, be encouraged. I am personally excited to see what comes out the other side of our global neighborhood and society, just because the turmoil and the chaos has to happen before good things. I would love to see what that looks like. I may or may not, but likely you watching may. So try to keep positive. Look for the good things. Focus on the good things. Just focus on the good things. There's so much we can't control. Most of everything we cannot control. And for me, that's been a huge relief, actually. So as soon as I realized, why am I getting stressed about this injustice I saw, or this, these lies, or this hypocrisy, or this danger, harm, or violence, all these things, if I invest my feelings into them and care, let them work me up, it's for no good benefit, because I can't change those things. The only thing I have control of course, is just my own behavior, and that can start with your thoughts. It can start from identifying things that matter to you and focusing on them, and doing something about them every day. If you want to be more thoughtful, if you want to be a better partner or friend or brother, sister, father, mother, acquaintance, workmate, just start being one. It's contagious. It catches. Just think about the last time someone went out of their way to be kind to you, especially when they didn't have to be. Just think about that, how you felt. You can make anyone feel like that anytime you want. Just a smile, a friendly head nod, if somebody or giving someone $1 who's homeless. I know we have all these. There's so much other weird social stigma attached to some of these things. But if you just look at pure kindness and strive for it to be that way yourself, it catches on. And it doesn't have to be all of us figuring it out at once. I think if 10% of us in the planet just decided, you know what, we're going to just focus nothing on kindness and love and understanding and not letting people walk all over you, but make that our goal, I bet you we could change the world, just 10% of us. So, whoa, that just went rambling, didn't it? It's Saturday, the 23rd, I believe, of September. And my brother John and his little girls are going to be visiting me next week, and I'm very excited about that. I'll update you guys periodically. I'll let you know. My oncologist said hospice care is going to be probably something that I need to consider. So it's just so surreal thinking about that, feeling as good as I feel. But anyway, I love you all. I wish you all wonderful health, quick recoveries if you're going through similar stuff or whatever you're going through. I hope you have, I wish you the very best. You're in my prayers as my prayers are, which are, I just speak my mind, speak what I want out loud for whoever's listening. You are all in my prayers. There is hope. Don't lose hope. Just value love, both giving and receiving. Sorry to be so sentimental here, but I love you guys. See you next time.